Yeah.
There we go. Keeps changing all the time. We've got to keep on our toes.
Awesome.
Good.
Oh, I love it. Very cool. So yeah, huge welcome, Pam. Like, it's very exciting to be finally profiling you. Before I dive in and introduce you to your archetypes, because of course we are creating a recording so that you can share this with your community, I'd love it if I'm going to put you on the spot, if you can share a little bit about why you wanted to do this, and I guess what's intrigued you or interested you about getting clear on getting to meet your Thrive Factor archetypes.
Well, thank you first, Shannon, because this is something I've been wanting to do since Fiji, which was in February this year at the Ultimate Girls Week away with Elizabeth Gilbert. And it was then when you did your keynote about this, I was like, oh my God, what is this? This can help me, because I'm always done, like the personality, human design. I'm always into that kind of thing. And anything that can help me understand myself more, I absolutely adore and love. And when you come into archetypes, like for me, that's more spiritual and magic, woo-woo kind of stuff. And I am so down with that. Like, I love it. And it really fills up my cup, like delving into those sides. But really, I guess, especially the way you've created it, it's so, like, when in your workshop, I'm like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. And this and this and this. And even though I've done all of this work, it's still like, oh my God, like it's the next level. So when we talked, actually, I got to chat with you in a pool, as you do over in Fiji. And it was
we did, actually. It was like almost the first day, wasn't it? And I'm like having a swim in this, I knew like you, Tam, from like, we knew each other online, but you just like slid up to me in the pool.
Yeah. I was like, I had my eyes on you. I'm like, I
know, totally. You were on a mission, which is no surprise now that we know your archetypes. But yes.
Yeah, so that, and after we talked, and obviously, hearing about, again, too, how these archetypes have helped mutually benefit, mutual friends and things like that. I just feel that having a better understanding of ourselves gives us more self-empowerment, which I'm all about. And I feel that what you provide, and especially this book, it's huge, it's incredible, and it's so deep.
Over 96,000 words.
It's huge, and like
in a good way.
It's like nearly a Bible. It is a Bible for your archetype, and it's like, it has questions, it has actionable steps, it has the good side and the unbalanced side. It has everything that I guess I need. And so I loved being having your book, and you've got your beautiful cards, which I didn't bring up, sorry, but they come with it. But yeah, I just feel that what you have, your container, I guess, that you've created for women to, know more about themselves is really powerful. So of course I want to connect to powerful women and share their, message as well, but also experience their magic. I love experiencing other people's magic. So
yes, you do, because of your content. As I introduce you to your archetypes and everyone gets to witness this, I think for a lot of women that will be watching this, that'll make even more sense to them about who you are, Tam, and why there's such significant things that are so important, driven messaging for you around what you really stand for, because it is all laid out in your archetypes, and that is one of the powerful things about it. And I love that you mentioned that, yes, it's very spiritual, but it's actually founded in ancient psychology. So yeah, this is not some like free little cheapy weirdo assessment thing you can do online to go, what's your favorite, what's all the random stuff. And those are fun and they're good to do. But when I know that when I was drawing on my own work with a lot of my coaching work, but prior to that, my work in psychology and leadership, and really, I'm all, as I say often, I'm all about people knowing more about themselves so they can be the best version of themselves. And having worked with archetypes and Carl Jung's work for many years, when I first started to see these patterns coming up in the women I was working with well over a decade ago, I just started documenting, and it was just literally just over a decade ago that I defined what are now the 12 Thrive Factor archetypes and began using them in my work with women. And now it's the first step. You can't do anything with me unless you've been profiled, pretty much, non-negotiable. So it's such a great thing to, after that experience, I knew that we'd end up profiling you at some point in time. It's just interesting how the year has played out and where we get to. And, such a great idea to be able to share this with your community. And I really honor your commitment to being true to yourself and being authentic and saying, yes, I'm happy to share whatever Shannon's going to share with me. I'm happy for others to hear that and for them to hear the conversation that we can have back and forward with this. So for anyone who is watching, profiling is a one-off thing that I do. I also have graduates of my Thrive Factor school who are women out there who are certified and trained by me personally to be able to offer profiling. So I'm not the only person in the world doing this, and that community is growing all of the time. So there, it will be very easy, and Tam will have links and stuff for if anyone wants to know more where you can do that and get access to your own experience. Some of the biggest pieces of feedback that women have shared with me over all this time is around they feel more permission to be themselves. They talk about having clarity and confidence, about really understanding that the things about themselves that they may have struggled with or others have maybe judged are not parts of them that are broken or need fixing or wrong, or in fact, those potential challenges are making strength. Looking forward to seeing what you have to share as we go through and introduce you to your 4 archetypes. And what I also like to do, and this is the power of actually doing a profiling session, is being able to have a conversation about your archetypes in relation to you and where you're at in your life and your business, but also to understand the interaction between them, because you can't get that by reading an individual chapter on an archetype in a book. Yeah? And this is why the profiling certification that I offer, again, is teaching the women about the archetypes individually, but also how do they work together? How do they clash sometimes as well? Because looking at your archetypes, which I have the cards in front of me and I'll show them as we go through them all, I can easily see where you can have some internal battles going on, as well as where there's great harmony within you. So it's going to be fun to talk about that. So yeah, so Tammy, you've got 4 archetypes. There are 12 in the framework. Now, I often get asked, and it's an appropriate question to ask, well, how many archetypes should I have? You have 4 archetypes. Women that I've profiled have anywhere between 3, 4, 5, or 6 archetypes. So there's not an exact number. It really is down to the online assessment that you do as part of the profiling experience. We'll look at the results and determine what your archetype profile is from those. It's another reason why it's not something you can go and do and then instantly get a report that gives you results, because there is some human and some trained psychology behind getting really clear on what that is. So you've seen your results, I know that, yeah. Yeah. Is there a particular archetype you'd like to talk about first? You remember, or you just wanted to dive in?
I know all of them. I do love all of them, but again, I think for me, it's like the inspired believer, that I know that's a huge part of who I am. And it's actually the one that when I've been reading through it, I'm like, yes, especially burnout, because to be honest, this year, like you said, I've been on the go so much, but like right now I'm going into like hibernation for myself, regeneration. I don't want to say hibernation because I'm not hibernating. I'm going adventuring and doing things to fill up my cup. But I was nearly hitting burnout, and I'm thank God that I had booked in a women's retreat. But I think that I guess all of them I want to really, discuss, and we will, but yeah, definitely that, balancing that, because I'm on all the time. And even in my head, I'm like, and then when's the new thing to be inspired about? And that's what it said, it's like, what's next?
Constantly. Yeah, I get it. So this is the inspired believer for everyone who's watching, who is going to get the right angle of the card. So there is clues in the imagery as well. And this is all my own artwork. I have the visionary creator archetype, who is the artist archetype. So you can see there's flames in the background. In hindsight, reflecting on the creation of this image for the inspirer believer, that's very much, yes, the flames of inspiration, like the spark of inspiration, but also the flames are awareness of how much, as an inspirer believer, and this is an archetype you and I share, so I'll be speaking for some of my own experience as well, and very common amongst women in business, very common, that they're also, the flames are an acknowledgement of how much energy we put into things and how we can very easily burn ourselves out or be burnt out by an experience or interaction with others. Yeah. So this archetype is, I refer to her as the energy archetype. Yeah, 100%. She's all about the getting excited about things. She's overly excitable a lot of the time. I've seen you in that space. Not a bad thing. I've seen it too. And again, years ago, you used to get people saying, you're a bit excitable about things. And it was almost like this negative thing. And yet I know now that that's one of my superpowers. And in my work, teaching and coaching and mentoring, it actually is one of the things my clients love so much, because that excitement that we have means that we're also a cheerleader for others. And you know, whether it's a person, a concept, a teaching, something that we believe in. So that's where the believer part comes in. But let's talk about every archetype has two parts to her name, and each part is representative of key parts of within that individual archetype. So if we focus on the inspirer part, inspirer believers were born to be inspirational. We want to be an inspiration. And yet, over the course of our lifetime, we can often have received significant amounts of feedback that suggests we actually are inspirational. People will have randomly said to us, or it feels random when we're younger or until we understand this archetype, you're such an inspirational, you're so motivating, or I can't believe what you've done, or I could never do what you do, those sorts of things. And often an inspirer believer's response is one of, oh, really? That's just me being me. It's just what I do. Not recognizing the incredible magic that brings, and the magnetism is one of the words I love to use, that creates. Others are looking to us for inspiration. We want to be inspiring, but when we get feedback that we are, it can be a bit like, oh, really? Like we're surprised. I'm like, but doesn't everybody do that? They don't. Inspirer believers do that. And in fact, some inspirer believers will do an awful lot of pushing away those compliments, not consciously. And instead, the way that you can really work with that is to beautifully and humbly take that on board, and just that beautiful place of gratitude and say thank you, because that's what I want to be. I want to be an inspiration. Yeah? Inspirer believers love quotes and good stories, and, you know, we share, I think platforms like Facebook and Instagram, that we just like, this is our space where we can go and share. Because the believer part of the inspired believer is that when we come across a teacher, a process, a framework, a solution, a learning, anything that helps us make sense of who we are and our place in the world, we want everyone to know about it. So we can become like an evangelist. Yeah. Everyone needs to know about this thing. That thing could have been different last week. That doesn't matter. We need to tell everybody about it, right? And often the first people that get to hear about it are our, like what I say, our nearest and dearest, our immediate family and friends. Now, because they are the first ones and probably the only ones that hear about all of the stuff that you've got that is inspiring and exciting and motivating and whatever, they can often go, oh, God, what is she into now? Like roll their eyes and just be like, really? And I know I've had some key people in my life say to me, but I thought that thing from literally like last week was going to change the world. I'm like, yeah, but what about this as well? And I've just discovered this new thing, and felt dismissed a lot of the time. So when we have a platform like Facebook or Instagram or something else where we can go and share without that actual physical feedback, it is actually better for us. Yeah, because we put it out into the world because it inspired us, and that's very much the energy with which I encourage Inspire Believer to be in that space of sharing, is that if that helped you make sense of yourself, it made you feel good, it made you feel inspired, then it could potentially inspire someone else to just share it, go with that vibe and share it anyway. Find a place where other inspirer believers are, because they are looking to also be inspired. And for example, if you think about, you know, something that is really meaningful to you and you get all in your inspirer believer energy about it, Tammy, you sharing that with me as a fellow inspirer believer, I don't need to be into that thing that you're into, but because you're excited about it, I will be also, and that can positively feed each other's energy rather than sucking each other dry and draining each other's energy. So Inspire Believers need to spend time with other Inspire Believers. When we were at the Ultimate Girls Week away in Fiji this year, that was a lot of Inspire Believer energy, but in a good way. Yes, we got tired because there was lots of stuff going on, but we generally, I think we all walked away with that extra renewed, you know, invigorated energy and excitement, because there was a majority of the women at that retreat, or a few hundred of us, were Inspire Believers. Yeah?
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful thing. So the other aspect of the Inspired Believer is that I refer to her as the potentialist. We have an innate gift for seeing the good in others and a huge desire for them to see it in themselves. Of course, it means we can put a lot of energy into people, things, companies, like, you know, whatever, and don't necessarily get anything back. So we need to learn to be able to read that better and walk away so that we, again, don't get burned or burnt out or drain ourselves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If there is, say, for example, I often use an analogy of being in a committee or in a board or something like that, or a community type thing where, everybody else has written off the thing or the person or the process or whatever it is. And the inspired believer will be the one who's found one tiny little positive thing and go, but what about this? And we hang on to it for dear life. And again, put all this energy and stuff that is not needed. So we need to listen to the masses on that sort of stuff and go, okay, it's all right, I can walk away. It's also not really helpful in relationships because we often stay in things and keep at things because we can see the potential, see the positive, we can see the optimism and what's available. So we need to learn to be able to walk away for our own sanity and our own, preservation of energy. Yeah. The other aspect there around that energy is that with the level of excitement and how much we put into things, we can also have the other extreme as an inspired believer. When we get to the points, I always say the red flags to look out for is when you feel flat and low and like you just need to nap forever. When you've lost all motivation for what you're doing. When someone will share something amazing with you and you just like, yeah. Whereas usually you'd be like, yes, you're like, oh, whatever. So all of these sorts of things are to pay attention to. And that's when we're starting to head into what I call the space or the plane of being mojo-less. We've lost our mojo. We've lost our energy and our enthusiasm for everything we're doing. And you see this, and you would have seen it as much as I have in the women in business we know, like the peaks and troughs of things that can go on and on and on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's often inspired believer driven. So irrelevant of what's going on with the other archetypes, this little Energizer bunny is sitting there underneath everything all the time. So we need to work with managing that energy, really tune in and trust our intuition and the craftiness with which we bring to the world. This is quite a creative archetype as well, but more in a crafting type way than an artistic way. So how can you use all of those sorts of things? So make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah.
She's there, and I've definitely seen her in you. I love it. I can spot an inspired believer a mile away. And I love being like in a physical space, in a room. And it's not often, again, because I said like so many women in business have this archetype. And my theory behind that is because we don't necessarily cope so well in the regular employment world. Yeah. Because people are just, putting down our enthusiasm, excitement and our energy all the time. So we go and create somewhere else where we can do that. But I love it because you'll see the inspired believers sparking off each other and the energy just keeps rising and rising and rising. It's just about being wary of the crash that can come after that and being more on not an even keel, because inspired believers don't have an even keel, but it's about less, I guess, peaks and troughs and more of a flow and a fluid movement. And when we have those red flags come up or those signs come up for us that it is time to just pull back a little bit. If we've given too much, we've done too much, we've, overexerted ourselves, just a little bit of rest. So it's all balanced out with some rest, nourishment. So exactly what you're doing, taking that time. As you said, it's not hibernation. It's just a reset and a rest and looking after yourself, which is brilliant, because when I look at one of your other archetypes, you definitely need that more than most of the archetypes. So that's your inspired believer. So who else? Who was next on your list?
Well, the next one that I looked into was the adventurer. So the
heroine adventurer.
Yeah. And that really, the wild woman. Like as soon as I saw wild woman, I'm like, nature, that's like such a big part of who I am.
Totally. And before we got to meet in person, I definitely picked this in you. The very fact that you in the time I've known you, you live in the country. You've got your horses, like they're your thing. Yeah. And having all that space and being in nature, and I think about your work from your mentoring and with everything with the Mompreneur movement and the magazine, but right through to your your skincare and like the natural wild energy of being female. Is what the heroine adventure is all about. Yeah. She is the fearless Wonder Woman of the archetypes, 100%. And in fact, if we look at the Wonder Woman character, the heroine adventurer archetype is like her to a T. She's got another few things as well. But even down to the point that in the early iteration of the 12 Thrive archetypes, I did link them with different gods and goddesses from around the world in traditional archetypal psychology. That was a common thing to do. And this archetype is the Greek goddess Diana, and the Wonder Woman character is, of course, Diana. So she's also an archer. So, you know, Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games movies, hero adventurer. So, you know, archetypes play out in all these different places. But she's a fierce, determined, focused individual. No question about that. So the target that's up the top there is a very subtle heart in the middle, not, you know, not a target as such, but that is to represent the fierce, focused, tenacious aspect of you, to the point that I say that when a heroine adventurer is clear on her goals, she becomes blinkered. Like nothing else. So you think about your horses where they, you know, you've got the blinkers on them so they can only go forward. This is the same for you. So you need to be wary of that, because it can mean that you can disconnect from the world and people and things that are important to you, because you're like, this is my goal. This is where I'm going. Get out of my way. Yeah. The heroine adventure archetype is often referred to, or I guess is talked about with other people. They'll recognize and they go, she's so competitive. Yeah, heroine adventurers don't necessarily recognize themselves as competitive, but from the outside looking in, we're like, yeah, she is. Like, she's got a thing, she's going after, get out of my way, don't, you know, I'm going to get there and I'm going to do this amazingly. It's going to be such high quality and value. So just remember that if people respond to you in a weird way, it might just be that they're feeling a little bit that you're a bit competitive. But again, heroine adventurers often don't refer to themselves as competitive. They're like, no, I'm just focused. And yes, you are. But to the outside world and to non-heroine adventurers, it can come across as being that you're the competitive woman. This is
even since as a kid, I was always like, my friends are so competitive with me, and I don't like having those relationships. But obviously I was instilling that and doing that naturally anyway. And because when I read it, I was like, yeah, I'm not really competitive. Like, I don't want that, and it's not part of who I am. But obviously it's that natural,
it's your drive and your focus and your, you know, your determination and the tenacity that you have for what it is that you want. And it is good for her, an adventurer, to have goals and very clear goals, because you need something to work towards. If you don't, you will sort of waft around quite aimlessly and feel really lost in the world. And with the combination of your Shapeshifter Alchemist, that can exacerbate that in not a good way. So yeah, having your goals, and I know that you do that. Like, you're clear, you've got your goals, and you've got big goals you want to work towards, and you break them all down. So you doing what comes naturally to you is, you know, is brilliant. And this is one of the things that the affirmation that comes in discovering your archetypes and getting the clarity on them is that that's good. So that thing I've been doing that I hoped was going to be okay and work is actually is right for me to do. So yeah, you're on path with that one, definitely. But the nature that's in the backgrounds of the trees, you know, she loves being in whatever her nature is. It's important, and well, beyond important, is essential for her an adventure to spend time in nature with her feet in water, on the earth, on the grass, whatever, every single day. Yeah. That will help to ground that ferocious, fierce determination and keep you feeling like you're moving forward again without burning yourself out. Because if your heroine adventurer is so in that zone, your inspired believer is going to get burnt out quicker than my inspired believer, for example, that doesn't have this energy. Yeah. What else can I tell you about the heroine adventurer? She has, which I love it in terms of your entire brand and what you stand for. This is the one archetype more than any of the others that has a huge need, a desire, a want, a dream to create a better experience and a better world for women and children. Your whole brand, I just got goosebumps saying that, yeah. So she wants to work with anything that can help women and children, to have a better life, to have a better experience. And when you find your thing and your way to do that, which I feel like you have found your vehicle to do that, again, watch out. There's no stopping her. She's there. And the good thing about your ability to be very focused on something, and as a plus in your business, is that even though you do have the Shapeshifter Alchemist that needs variety, you're less likely to get distracted because you're so committed and it's so embodied within you, this desire that you have for that core messaging and, you know, everything it stands for, that you just move forward with it. You know, it's again what we would see all the time, that so many women in business seem to, you know, they're doing one thing 1 minute and they're doing something else and they're doing something else and they're doing something else. And even though you've got different things that you do, they all come back to the core thing. Yeah, so that's your variety for your shapeshifter, but that comes back to the core message and what you stand for, which is driven definitely by your heron adventurer. Yes, it's a beautiful combination of those two together. Yeah. So lucky you've got the horses, lucky you've got the space, lucky nature's so important to you. And lucky too, Tammy, that's just, again, you doing what you know that you need to function. Yeah. It's very common for heron adventurers to have pet dogs. Yeah. But it's not a smaller dog usually. Yeah. So you've got 4.
Big and small.
Yeah, that's it. But it's usually, if they have a smaller dog, it's often because they don't have the space to have a larger dog, but they want to have a bigger dog. And I think there's something innately within a heron adventure because it gets you outside. That kind of a pet means, and for you, you've taken it to the next level with your horses, but it gets you outside in nature because they need walking, they need, they need fresh air, they need that whole experience. Whereas, yes, you could have dogs inside in an apartment, but if it was a heron adventurer that had that situation, she would still be making sure that she could get out somewhere with that dog. Yeah, so I have different times profiled heron adventurers that don't have a pet dog or any animals in their life. I'm like, but you must have them somewhere. And then they'll reel off their friends, their family, like, yeah, I'm always dog sitting, I'm always doing this, but I can't have one right now, but I want to have it. They'll tell you the breed and everything. So yeah, dogs is a sign. Yeah.
And I went to the extreme. So I always wanted a big dog. And I got him 3 years ago, and he's huge. Like, everyone freaks out about him because he's so big. Like, he's Irish Wolfhound cross.
Oh, wow.
So he's so big and he's so sweet. Like, he's the biggest softie. But yeah, he's huge. And then I have a tiny little mini Dashie.
Yes, I've seen the Dashie. Yeah.
He's my cat dog.
Yeah, let's hear it. That's another sign of the heron adventure. Let's do everything in extremes.
Yeah.
These, when I said to you before about the being outside in nature, it's a very naturally athletic archetype. So it's an archetype where women that are heron adventurers, they tend to be physically active. They like to look after themselves. Fitness and nutrition is important to them, and they have the potential to achieve at a really high level in a sporting type physical environment. Often, this is like the potential Olympian archetype. And again, I think back to the Wonder Woman movie that came out in the last couple of years, and all the women from the culture where she's come from, they're like, Olympians. Yeah. So that whole energy of the heron adventurer.
Well, that really explains a lot too, because I've always wanted to do combat, and I love paintball, and I love shooting. I don't like shooting animals, but I love shooting targets. I do like horseback archery, all those kind of things. Like, I love it. And look what I'm wearing. I love Earth today.
Yes. It's so funny. Whereas, I've got Believe and Create behind me. I'm a visionary creator and an inspirer believer. So it's funny, isn't it? And this is it. The signs are all around us for who we are and what we're doing. I love that. That's so funny. I remember a few years ago having a conversation with a woman who was a heron adventurer and also very controlled and driven queen ruler, but that had the heron adventure. I said, so where is the heron adventure showed up in your life previously? And she's like, I don't know. And then later on in the conversation, she said something to me about when she played netball competitively, like at state level, and how she coaches her. She's got 2 daughters who are grown up now, but they were in their teens at the time. She coached both their netball teams. I'm like, that's your heron adventurer. He's always there. Yeah. So no matter what, even if that changes over time, it's still within us. So it is. I find it fascinating. It's always there. And again, I love asking people, and they'll be like, no. And I'm like, okay, that's all right. And eventually it comes out somewhere. Yeah. So you've got 2 more archetypes to talk about. Which one are we going to go with? You going with the wise woman or the magical woman?
Yeah, the magical woman.
I'm surprised you took this long to get to talk about the Shapeshifter Alchemist. Yeah. So the Shapeshifter Alchemist is here. She deliberately has a mask and a cape. This is a woman who likes to be mysterious, likes to be mystical. She's also very magical, which, I know that you identify as an alchemist, and in the best possible way. When I think about the way that I was defining the Shapeshifter Alchemist and the real conscious use of that word alchemist, it was because of this potential, when you think about what an alchemist actually stands for, that someone who can turn something of seemingly little or no value into incredible wealth and abundance. That's the potential for the Shapeshifter Alchemist. I'd call her the master manifester. Now, for the Shapeshifter Alchemist to really turn on her alchemist in the best possible way, it is important for her to have very clearly defined goals, visions, things to work towards. So this is where your Heron Adventurer is working in harmony with your Shapeshifter Alchemist. Yeah. The power of the manifesting is another thing that I will often have very strong conversations with Shapeshifter Alchemists, particularly those that don't believe they can manifest. Most of you have got some understanding of the power you have, but there are women that will say to me, no, I'm not. All I have is bad shit happen to me all the time. Well, yeah, that's you manifesting. So being very considerate about your thoughts, your words, your feelings, and your actions, because they will become reality like that, like no other archetype. This is the archetype that women that don't have it, they want it. Because all they hear is the positive for the manifester, the alchemist. They don't understand that if, again, you're not in a good headspace, so your inspire believer's burnt out, you lost your mojo, you're feeling a bit crappy about things, that could then exacerbate and amplify that. Okay? So again, I know you do a lot of mindset work and you're very conscious of where you're at and staying that high vibe. So that's going to support your alchemist to bring in more magic into your life. Yeah? Yes. Exactly. She's like, yes, I know. I'm doing that all the time. But it is an archetype that is, I often call her the magical queen. She's not necessarily got the queen ruler type queenly attributes, but from a magical perspective, she is the queen of magic, 100%. So the magical aspect, again, sometimes I have conversations with Shapeshifter Alchemists and they're like, I don't quite get the magic, but it's a very rare that I have that conversation. It's more around their own, okay, yeah, of course. Yes, I am magical. I love magic. And what I encourage every Shapeshifter Alchemist to do is to get really clear on what is magical for you. What makes you feel magic? What feels expansive and magical and, really fun and playful? Doing more of that every day is going to, again, amplify the strengths of the Shapeshifter Alchemist so that you don't have challenges that can come up, which classic challenges for the Shapeshifter Alchemist, visibility, and getting caught up in needing so much variety that you can become almost uncertain about who you are. Yeah. Chop and change all the time, bright, shiny objects, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, definitely. Distraction, boredom, all those things. So again, this is where your Heron Adventure is going to help you because the focus is going to bring that in. And I will say to every Shapeshifter Alchemist woman in business, have oodles of variety in your life so you don't need as much of it in your business. But it would be a disservice to any Shapeshifter Alchemist woman if I was to say you need to have one thing and one niche, one ideal client, because none of you are going to do that. And in fact, that's going to help make you feel like there's something wrong with you or broken or not working or why don't you fit or why doesn't this work for me? You need to have variety. Yeah. So for a fact, I think about you with your, again, the different stuff you do right through to, magazine to skincare. It's like you do all the stuff in between, books, coaching, like everything. The key thing from a marketing and a business perspective for Shapeshifter Alchemist is to be able to explain to our audience how those things are linked together. Yeah. Because if they understand, then they're going to literally buy into that. If they are unsure, they'll do what I refer to as a bit of a lean back. What we want people to lean in and go, how can I pay you? Instead of leaning back and going, I'm not really sure about that thing that Tammy's doing because last week she was talking about that and that made sense to me, but now she's talking about that and that feels like that's way over here. So is that thing she was talking about last week's really right for me if this is what she's into now? That's not what we want to create. You want to give people that sense of magic and the, oh my God, what's Tammy got now? Not, oh, what's Tammy doing now? Yeah. Equally, we've got our ideal clients that will be magnetized to us and those that will pull away. And sometimes that pulling away is a good thing.
One thing I find that I really like on the Shapeshifter side that I struggle with is branding in my businesses.
Okay.
That whole.
How many times have you changed it?
Every year, twice a year. I've just spent another, however many thousands of dollars to rebrand my, my products and rename them. And you know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous how much I just go, it's not right. It's not getting the message. It's not who I am now. You know what I mean? And it just.
Yeah. So and that's it because you've evolved so much too.
Yeah.
So that's quite funny you share that because it's not an uncommon thing for Shapeshifter Alchemists to do. Liberator engineers are also archetypes that chop and change things often. That's one of my archetypes. And so one from memory of looking at all the results from your assessment was sort of in the middle of your archetypes. So she's having a little bit of influence. In fact, we have all 12 within us. It's just, you know, these 4 are your main ones that are all there all the time, driving, doing, getting in the way, all the different things that they're doing. So from that perspective, I think there's got to be an acknowledgement that you are going to evolve, and you're going to evolve in a different way to other women that don't have the Shapeshifter Alchemist archetype. But being really clear with yourself about really whether you do need to change something or you're just bored. And if you're bored, fill up your cup somewhere else and leave your branding as it is. Yeah? Next time you go to change your branding, message me and I will remind you of that. Yeah. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. But yeah, it's not an uncommon thing where it never looks quite right. It never feels quite you, because this is also an archetype that beyond, you know, any of the other 11 in the framework will have more of the who am I question. Yeah. What's my place in the world? What's my purpose? Why am I here? Yeah. Beyond any of the others. I have a lot of women as clients that are Shapeshifter Alchemists as part of their profile. I call it like a sub-ideal archetype for my ideal clients. And I know why, because I actually have a way for you to know who you are. Yes. I have a solution for that. Years ago, the PA I was working with, who is a Shapeshifter Alchemist, who has not had a harmonious relationship with that part of herself. She used to do the profile reports for me, and she'd message me and she'd go, there's another shapeshifter. Oh my God, how are you going to manage this? There's so many of them. I love them, because when I can support you all to be in that alchemist space and to really own your need and the gifts that come in your variety, flexibility, versatility, it's incredible what you can create. Yeah. I love being able to be in that space where the Shapeshifter Alchemist fully embodies and owns who she is, because watch out world. Yeah? It's just remembering that you can do that, so that if you have any, the alchemist goes on a bend of not so good stuff, you can remember that the same stuff that got you there can get you out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Use your magic. Yeah. The more that you have magic in your day, in whatever way it works for you, the less likely you're going to have a challenge with your alchemist going off on the wrong path. Yeah. You'll have had people, I have no doubt about this at all, as well as telling you that you're inspirational, they would have said that you are also magical, or they'll have said something like, I don't know what you just did or what we just did, but that was like magic. And the good thing about it, they're so magnetized and like literally almost under your spell that they don't care how you did it. They don't want to know how. They just want more of that, more of the same.
It's like when I speak, so I had the Inspire Believer, but like it's so much more. It's like you have this incredible energy coming through when you speak, like the spell, like, you know, it's the speaking. But and I can see how it works incredibly, beautiful together when in harmony.
Yeah, for sure. So when your Inspire Believer's not in that good space and not got it all in mojo, sorted, your Shapeshifter Alchemist is going to exacerbate how quickly you want to hide. How you want to cocoon away.
Well, that's interesting, because I love coming to an event, getting on stage and speaking, but then I really just want to go home after that. You know what I mean? Like, instead of spending all that energy talking, like, not that I don't want to talk to women, but I've just been up on stage, I've just done everything, and then I'm done. Like, it feels like I can go now. You know what I mean? Yeah. 100%.
So the Inspire Believer archetype, I've found in the hundreds of profiling sessions I've done now, it tends to be more an introverted archetype. Again, because we are energy driven, and our interaction with people and things can either excite us and motivate us and give us energy, or drain us. So it aligns with what we know about introvert versus extrovert. Yeah. The hero and adventure part of you would be more of an extroverted side of you. The Shapeshifter Alchemist is definitely introverted side. Yeah. So this is where you've got the clash almost of like, I can be out there and be on stage. So I'm the same. But then, I definitely need to go home and cocoon after for a bit. I know I don't have the shapeshifter. So that comes from my visionary creator, who's often got a shapeshifter aspect to her and a manifesting aspect to her of being very visionary and futuristic. So she's on a different plane. So being in the here and now, rounded with the regular everyday people, for me, is not always exciting. My inspired believer doesn't get excited about that. I do love other visionary creators, pioneer seekers, which is that pioneering, doing things new and fresh and innovative, and Shapeshifter Alchemist, because we're all on a different plane to everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. We can all like have a completely different experience of life and business. So that's cool. So yes, no more changing your branding. Definitely not every year. Yeah, probably just because you got bored of it.
Yeah.
And what you're saying to yourself from an intellectual perspective, which would be the influence of your mental teacher, is that it's not resonating. It's not not my clear message. I bet you it's got nothing to do with that. You just got bored.
Yeah. Pretty much. It is getting bored and going, yeah, I want something new.
Yeah. So yeah, just be mindful of that, and so go and fill your cup of I'm bored, I need variety, I need something new and fresh and fun to play with, rather than looking at the things that are going to be a big cost of time and money and energy. To just because you were bored. Yeah. As I said, the liberator engineer archetype is one that can do that as well, or she just tinkers and changes just because she can. So I get it, but on a different level entirely. So you knew you were magic. I think that's one of the things that when you snuck up to me in the pool, we were talking about the archetypes, and you were like, I know I'm the alchemist, I know I'm magical. Yeah, no doubt at all. And then your lucky last, but definitely not least, she's a big powerhouse one. This one is the mentor teacher. So this is the other archetype that you and I have the same. So with this archetype, we have a love of learning and a thirst for knowledge. Like every single thing we do is about what can I learn? What can I do with it? And then what can I do with this knowledge or this information, this experience? So a lot of the time I find that I'm reminding mentor teachers that it is about what can I learn? What can I bring in? What can I experience? What can I share? So it's a revolving thing where some mentor teachers get to a point where learn and do nothing with it. Yeah, which is not useful. Or learn a little bit, get very arrogant and smarty pants about it, and just share like we know everything. So there's lots of different iterations, and we've all been on the receiving end of various types of teachers in our life where we can see all those different examples. But it's like the fluid, like thinking about the flow of the inspired believer, the energy behind the mentor teachers. What can I learn? How can I implement? How can I share? So there's a cycle going through there. Now, while we love learning, it's the formal learning that we can find in anything from a workshop to reading a book, a podcast, a magazine, doing something and having a one-on-one session with someone, through to a program we do, through to a formal going and doing a course and getting qualification. But we equally love and really respect and honor the lessons that life has to offer us. Yeah. So our wisdom, this is why I refer to the mentor teacher as the wisdom woman. In fact, I've got a whole range of t-shirts coming out. Slogan tees for the Thrive at Archetypes, with 2 slogans per t-shirt, per archetype. So there'll be 24 of them. Wow. And one of them for the mentor teacher is wisdom woman. Yeah. Because this is an archetype. We come to this world with incredible innate wisdom. We then want to go and learn more, which is always fascinating, but we actually know a lot already. And when we are younger, we can often have had different experiences where the things that we know and we innately want to share. So, for example, it might be an observation about something, or you talk about something. And I know I did this when I was 4 or 5 and explained to my mother and grandmother basically that about some real dysfunction in their relationship. I'm not a psychologist. I've done stuff like that now, but back then I didn't. But I just sort of nailed it, and of course they didn't like that. Yeah. And I remember many times in my life, and it's a common thing for mentor teachers, where we've had feedback that sort of said that, how do you know that? Or you shouldn't know that, or you're not old enough to know that, or you haven't done anything to learn that. Yeah. So if that happens and we take all of that on board and embed it in our belief systems, which is inspired believers more likely to do, we can get to a point where we mistrust our wisdom, and we believe we have to go and learn more and actually get those qualifications and pieces of paper to prove something that we know. I feel like we've spent a lot of time and money and energy learning and gathering proof to show people that we actually know stuff that we already knew. Yes. Yeah. Now, it's always a sign when an inspired believer ends up signing up for lots of new learning experiences that she's mistrusting her wisdom and the value that she has to offer. Yeah, I have at times put clients on a learning ban. Yeah? If you to the point that if you sign up for another thing while we're working together, there's going to be issues, because what I find out is that there's a whole lot of things that you've signed up for, you've paid good money for, and you haven't done anything with. You either haven't started it because you probably didn't need it anyway, or you've started it and sat there and gone, I actually already know this. Now, sometimes that is the truth. Sometimes it's the assumption that we make. And I've done it. I've sat there and gone, I know this. And I'm like, actually, maybe I probably should go back to that and relook at it. So implementation can be a challenge for a mentor teacher. We don't finish things necessarily because we've just jumped ahead. And if the pace of the learning feels slow to us because we move at such a quick pace with our learning and our ability to take on and grasp concepts and processes and things, we can get, again, bored. So your shapeshifter is going to work in a way where there could be disharmony with your mentor teacher and getting bored quicker. Yeah? My liberator, engineer, and visionary creator are the ones that make my mentor teacher get bored fast at different times. I want the learning and then I'm all done now. Why was that 4 hours? Why couldn't we just do it in half an hour and just like move forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, I've probably I'm not proud of this, but I've basically paid nearly 10 grand, like, you know, 3 grand from one and like, you know, a bit more for the other one. And they're basically the same course from 2 different people. And I'm like, okay. But I got so inspired when I listened to them and I'm like, yeah, no, I need your style. And then a year later, I'm like, yeah, no, I need your style. Still haven't done both of them. Hey.
No. It's a very common thing. So mentor teachers, you will recognize yourselves in what Tammy and I are talking about. It's okay. Give yourself a break. There's nothing, again, wrong with you. Be aware of it. And something that I've worked on from a mindset perspective, Tammy, is that if I get enticed to get inspired and excited about something, is not to pay attention to any of the marketing thing that says this is the last time it's at this price or it will never be available again, and work instead on trusting that if I am truly meant to have that experience with that person or in that course, or, you know, interact with that knowledge or that learning in some way, it will come back to me in as good a deal or offer as what I just saw it as. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If I start signing up for stuff, again, it's like, wait a second, I'm not trusting my wisdom here. I'm not trusting what I already know. I'm not doing what I'm here to do with it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mentor teachers, this is the one archetype where you're from a business model perspective, you've got to be teaching and mentoring. Yeah. Like some of the other archetypes, there's definitely, it would be good for you to consider doing X, Y, Z, whatever. But this is the one that's like, your business model will transform when you were teaching and being paid to teach. Mm-hmm. So speaking, book writing, all the stuff you're doing, your magazine, your coaching, that's a form of teaching for us. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Yeah. So you're already on path for that, so that's cool. You probably don't need to go and learn more shit about the stuff though.
Well, I nearly did. I was like, oh, should I go and do more deeper training about facilitating for women's space that I've been doing for 5 years?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And if you don't ever get hooked into anything because somebody at some point said something, or you read something, or you heard something that suggested maybe you don't know enough, that just know that that's what I call, and rather than limiting belief, I use expansive or contracting beliefs. The contracting belief for the mentor teacher is I don't know enough. Yeah. I just had an experience just recently with one of the women who's doing the Thrive Factor certification to be a profiler, who they're at the pointy end of the course now. They got all their final assessments coming in, and she consciously did her exam early because she wanted to know whether or not it was worth her investing any more time and energy in promoting her new course, where she's embedded all of the Thrive Factor work into it. She goes, because I feel like I'm just going to fail. Like her mentor teacher got to that point, and this is what the mentor teacher is not necessarily good, because we make up all this crazy stuff in our heads that I don't know what I'm doing, it's not going to be good enough. And particularly if they're working with another mentor teacher, we feel we're going to be judged based on what we know. Mm-hmm. And the mentor teacher can come across sometimes as judgmental. And as I said before, they can be sometimes an arrogance that comes through with I've got knowledge that you don't have. And, I think everyone, I can imagine that that I know I've talked to, and that I can imagine has had an experience of learning from somebody who's probably in that space. And there can be a big power play with mentor teacher. So I'm like, be careful not to be too bossy and to be the smarty pants, because no one likes the smarty pants. Be the wise woman. Yes. Mm-hmm. You're wise woman with your heron adventurer. Beautiful combination in terms of there's genuine incredible, tangible knowledge and expertise that you can bring forward with your mission for women and children. Yeah.
Definitely.
So, yeah, so that's your mentor teacher.
Oh my God, this is incredible. I just, yeah, it just, you know, I guess that you get that every time. It's just like, this is, yep, I get it. And now I feel, again, like I've been doing a lot of inner work these last couple of weeks, which has been fantastic.
Yeah.
However, I feel this is like the icing on the cake. You know what I mean? Like bring it all together and really like, and because this session's been fantastic, but I've got this amazing book as well to, you know, I think that's the thing is this is the integrative tool as well, which is what I love, because I will need that, because there's that part of me that will sort of go into that forgetful phase kind of thing, or you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's like, well, no, this is what and that's that, who am I, what am I doing, all that kind of stuff, that shapeshifter that keeps coming, you know.
100%. So the strengths, a lot of what I've shared with you is a combination of the strengths of the archetypes, the interaction together, and the potential challenges. And the word potential is very important to understand. And you know, in some regards, I could really exacerbate that more in the already very detailed book. But the potential aspect is, if when anyone is looking individually at a chapter in the Thrive Factor book around an archetype, that is that archetype in isolation. So you may have understanding or feel like you know some of those challenges that are listed in the book, but know that you're not necessarily going to have them come to life because one of your other archetypes could almost cancel them out. But you do have access to every one of the strengths that's detailed in there. So using more of those. And when I often will say, when I'm teaching around the archetypes, is that if you have anything that's going on where you don't feel good, things aren't working for you, you know, anything like from a business perspective, you know, the right clients aren't showing up, payments are, you know, bills are coming out of nowhere, like all these sort of, you know, things that just makes you feel bit, again, contracted, and you want to go to Inspire a Believer, curl up on the sofa, like, and do Netflix for a day because you can't function. Yeah. Go to your archetypes, and even if you just start with one of them and just you're so intuitive, Tammy, and you know, every woman, I know you and I are on the same path with this, every woman is intuitive, but not a lot of them necessarily know that and own that. We go to that place, and this is like a psychology sort of therapeutic type process. I refer to it as dialoguing with your archetypes. Have a conversation with them like they're your group of best new girlfriends. Sometimes they're going to get on, sometimes they're not. Sometimes someone's going to feel left out. Sometimes someone's going to want more attention. Sometimes, you know, there's going to be two of them colluding together and other two colluding together at odds with each other. So keep them active and alive in you. Have conversations with them. And even if things aren't working, just say, okay, who needs attention right now? Who needs some love? And listen and work with what comes up and who comes up, and then go and read and choose one of those discovery questions. Or what I love to do is, particularly if some of the challenge stuff comes up, choose one of the strengths of one of your archetypes. It doesn't even have to be the same archetype you could attribute the challenge to, and actively choose to use that. So underneath all of this was the principles, what I refer to as personal leadership, which is the way we live our lives, the way we experience things, how much effortlessness we have, how much thriving we have, is a result of the choices we make and the action we take in response to those choices, which is the way I define personal leadership. So I believe that every one of us has a choice, and we have a choice about the actions we take in response to those choices. Even if we find ourselves in situations or feeling states where we feel like we don't have a choice, you have a choice about how you feel about that. We actually have more power than we give ourselves credit for. We have more creativity, more intuition, more magic, more joy, more freedom, all of that. We have more available to us than we acknowledge usually, and, you know, and work with. And when we can be in that space of using our strengths, consciously using the strengths that we have from an archetypal perspective, what I find happens, and this is something that I very clearly from the combination of my archetypes and my visionary creator and liberator engineer, who I attribute to really the powerhouse behind creating this framework, is that we create a dynamic where, yes, there's more thriving, but that we open up our effortless success zone, which is why the subtitle of the book is Unlock Your Effortless Success Zone. Because when you use more of your strengths, things get easier. And you stop questioning them, and you stop going, oh, that was a fluke, or that was just like lady luck. No, this is you using who you are in the best possible way, because you're consciously choosing to show up as you and to use your strengths, and be aware that when the stuff comes up that we can attribute to our challenges, that it's often momentary, that we can change it, that it doesn't mean that there's something not right with us.
Incredible. And that's the thing most important, I think, than anything. There's nothing wrong with us. This is just who we are. And for so long, I think each person and each woman who's watching this has been told, don't be too loud, don't speak too much, don't do this, don't do that. And you know, it's so funny. As a child, I was like, stop talking so much. You talk so much. And now I get paid to speak. You know what I mean?
Mentor teacher, I got told that as well. Just you're such a chatterbox, and I'm like, which is interesting, isn't it? I, have so many stories that I can share around women, doing a profiling session, whether it's online like this or in person with me, where, they'll start to cry and there's this soft but beautiful emotion comes out. And when I inquire about what's going on, if they're willing to share it with me, so often what comes back is something along the lines of, I actually like myself. Or, oh my God, like I feel I can be me. Like I know who I am now. I can do something with this. Or that thing that someone's condemned me about, a part of me all my life, is my greatest gift to the world and myself. And that's the stuff I will never tire of hearing that ever. That's what feeds my soul. And to think that something, a conversation and an introduction to archetypes, introducing you to yourself, could potentially create that and change the way you work and exist and, function in the world moving forward. That's why this came to me. I don't question where it came from. I don't know. I don't need to know. I've had clients who interact with different solar planes and different things, and they told me where it's come from. I don't really care where it's come from. I just trust it wholeheartedly.
Amazing. And like, if you're watching this, you can see how spot on this, like everything I'm like going, yes, this is so on. This is me. And so if someone wants to do this and find out more, I know they can get your amazing book, The Thrive Factor, online. But how, like, if they want to get profile, which I highly recommend because it's incredibly, like you said, personable, and you get to have this interaction and conversation. Like, this is a condensed conversation. But if someone wants to have this conversation or in their profile with you, how do they go about it?
Okay, so there's two places I will send anyone who's interested in knowing more. The first one is the Thrive Factor website. So the thrivefactor.com is where you can find out. You will find links to get yourself profiled. You'll be able to book profiling with me or the current, whenever you're watching this, the current Thrive Factor graduates. Every one of those women has a different, strengths and specialization in their businesses. They are all experienced businesswomen, because that's one of the minimum criteria, that it's not a startup business or a woman wanting to use profiling as her business. She must be in an established business. So, and currently they've all been trained and certified by me. So I wouldn't let them out in the world if I didn't know that they were at a level to offer an incredible, valuable experience. So you can go to the Thrive Factor website, do that. We're putting more blogs and information around that out there all the time, so that women can better get to learn more about the archetypes. So that's one way where you're going to find everything, and any programs that I'm running mostly end up on there as well. But if you're not sure and you want to know more about what's the current things that I've got going on, because as I said earlier, right at the beginning, that yes, this profiling is an individual thing, but from a business perspective, profiling and knowing your archetypes is embedded into every single thing that I do. From private one-on-one work to masterminds to programs to teaching to almost right through to free type stuff that I offer. It's everywhere in my membership community. So if you go to allmylinks.com, Shannon-the Thrive Factor, that's going to have all of the latest, whatever I've got going on is always going to be there and to be kept up to date.
Amazing, fantastic. And
yes, thank you.
I just think it's incredible. And one thing that just grabbed my I've really stuck on with what you said is introducing you to you. Like, that is fantastic, because it's so true. Like, oh my God, because so many women don't believe or don't trust or don't really know who they are. And obviously my shapeshifter just went hook onto that. Isn't that funny? But That's incredible, because like you said right at the beginning, it gives women permission to be who they really are and to
Yeah.
be their best selves. And I can feel it. And reading this book, I, you know, I've gained so much. Speaking in the sessions just confirmed everything, I guess. And, you know, I guess this has been a great confirmation for me in what I do. So thank you so much, Shannon. I appreciate so much time. And make sure to reach out, beautiful people, to Shannon, because she's incredibly amazing. And she has an amazing free group as well, if you want to start connecting there as well. So
thanks,
awesome.
Tammy. Very cool. And I think, you know, this last bit of like wisdom from me, just as we're talking about that, introducing you to yourself. Sometimes I've had questions around the, oh, but you know, the thrive, you know, are the archetypes, or is archetype stuff, is it limiting? Is it gonna, is this like labeling? No, I see this as like, it's almost like a springboard to whatever else is possible. And I talk about it being connecting into your innate potential. What you get in the Thrive Factor book was current as of what I published in January 2019. It's going to be more books and more things, and there's new learning that I'm getting all the time. So this is just, use this as a starting point to go, yes, I want to expand out in the world in whatever way you know you want to, no matter how scary it feels. You know, you are magnificent. So I can't wait to see what you do with this.
Thank you so much, gorgeous woman. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Thanks everyone.